is survivalhorror.com.
Hey guys, welcome back to La Bóveda podcast, the place where we explore the darkest corners of survival horror. From the classic that defines the genre, we've been on a thrill ride recently, and now we've been touching on new developers, pushing fear into sometimes unexplored territory and some daring risks, and I've been super stoked about it. I think when we started La Bóveda as a whole, when I started streaming and making survival horror content, one of the things that we wanted to do is expose and put out there indie survival horror devs, because I discovered that the indie scene was scaring the genre moving forward. So today we're heading deep underground with Fear of Sleep. It's a retro-inspired sci-fi horror experience developed by Signal Decay Games and it's going to be published and developed by Konrad Honey. And the game basically throws the players in a massive subterranean shelter built in the shadow of war, and you play as Roy, which is an RO1 maintenance android, navigating collapsing infrastructures. And it's pretty interesting because when I tried the demo, and I want to thank you, Konrad, for providing that, it's I don't know, it's very different from any survival horror I've played, because I'm using a robot basically, and the game embraces a philosophy that rejects mother hand-holding instead of asking players to learn system through observation. The experimentation is great, and you need to pay attention to your survival instincts while playing. Guys, it's a very genius idea. I loved it to the core. So it has a very cool old aesthetic. There's physics-driven gameplay. I love that. There's visceral combat, and we were talking about the environment storytelling, which is very compelling. So Fear of Sleep aims to channel that tension of the classic OG survival horror titles while pushing a systematic gameplay forward that it feels super new. And today we're joined by Konrad Honey to talk about the origins of the project, survival horror design philosophy, and the terrifying world of the MetroBunker. So, Konrad, welcome to La Bóveda.
Thank you. That was an awesome introduction. I really appreciate being here. It's really cool.
I saw your game, and I think it was on a Reddit post. Like, it's not, this is how it happens. Like 85% of the time, it's either that or on an X. And I saw there's a thing. I was talking with. I just interviewed a group of people from Argentina that they're working in a very survivor adjacent project. It's a first person game. It's aliens, and we had a very good conversation. And we're talking and how cool game nowadays are becoming, because even if they're still attaching to that OG survival horror formula, people are starting to throw original ideas in it. Mm-hmm. And I think it's super good, because at some point, survival horror it's thriving right now, and there's a lot of games coming out. But I also believe that at some point it's gonna get crowded by games that look exactly and play exactly the same. And we've seen this with other genres before. So I'm super stoked about people throwing new ideas in there. So I think one of the things that I love is to start from the beginning and the origins of the studio. So for those discovering Signal Decay Games now for the first time, could you introduce your studio to the audience, and when the studio was founded? What was the original vision behind it?
Sure. Yeah, it was summer of 2024, I want to say. Basically, so my background is 3D art in AAA. So I've been doing weapons for first-person shooters for like almost 10 years now. I've worked on Call of Duty. Right now, I'm the lead weapons artist on the Splitgate franchise.
Awesome.
But I was working on the infamous Concorde. I'm sure you have heard of the Concorde. Yeah, I made the yellow robot. I made that guy, but also the majority of the work I did on Concorde was all weapons for first person, and the hard surface, like the weapons, the environments, the vehicles and stuff. It's a shame that the game went the direction that it did, because this is the same story in AAA over and over again. The people who are actually developing the thing are always beholden to creative ideas that they often disagree with, but you can see the individual contributions in the execution of
Yeah.
of the thing visually, especially as an artist. Like, your portfolio is what you care about mostly, more than, a game success or whatever. So like, I'm you can look up all the art for that game, and it's really, people from legacy Halo games, people from all over the place really poured a lot of energy and talent into that project. So, but long story longer, we were waiting essentially to hear back from Sony, because they owned our studio, what they wanted to do moving forward after the game failed. And everybody knew that, excuse me, we were just in a holding pattern waiting to be laid off, basically.
Okay.
And this happens in AAA way more often than, I mean, I think even gamers now are starting to notice this pattern. But basically, I was sitting there thinking, okay, we're kind of on this deadline for 3 months where I'm probably going to be out of a job and I have no work to do, but I'm still employed. So, like, I'm just going to keep myself on the clock and start grinding out, learning Unreal on the programming side, so that I can build a prototype of a game that I want to play and I want to others to experience. Like, I just had this moment where it's like, I'm so tired of renting my time to other people's creative ideas and just
Yeah.
giving the 10,000 plus hours that I've put into developing a craft over time, and then have it just be, thrown away like that.
Yeah. Interesting.
And also, the reason I got into video games is because, like anyone in games, they want to make games. They don't, like, I see myself as a game developer before I see myself, excuse me, as a 3D artist. So, I basically just got going on. I spent like a 3 or 4 weeks just like learning the fundamentals of Blueprint and Unreal,
Yeah.
while kind of building a narrative that I wanted to tell, and kind of working on like a minimum viable feature game design document for this game. And my thought experiment is, okay, I love Dead Space. I love the way Dead Space feels. It's, to me, it might be my favorite game of all time. But if you look at old, there's a lot of prototype footage out there from when they were developing Resident Evil 4, when they stuck with fixed camera, but they still had that kind of 6-axis
Yes.
aiming. And then I'm sure you've played it, but Cold Fear is another big influence for me, where you have that laser sight and that really analog aiming feel, but you're still stuck in the fixed camera for most of the time.
Yes.
So I wanted the feeling of launching gravity objects, of dismembering things, stomping them to pieces, backtracking, and then quick turning to blow something's head off. Like, all of that stuff in Dead Space that is like very visceral from being over the shoulder. I just thought, what if a game feels like this to play, but it looks like Resident Evil 1? That's kind of
yeah. That's
kind of where it was born. And then, so I worked on a prototype, and I exhausted my ability to program with the prototype. Like, none of the systems were scalable. Everything was just kind of smoke and mirrors to prove the concept of what I wanted it to be. It's like, I want 3 different weapon types that are also, the weapons will also be gadgets, and they're going to be fixed on spots of your body, so that when you equip them, you physically have to put it away and pull the next thing out.
Yeah.
And I know that I want weapon types per that thing, but I'm just going to prove right now a melee, a functional, and a firearm. So I got to work doing that. I built this like just totally hacky system where nothing scaled. Nothing was like actually built with programming language that you could zoom out and go, okay, this is a weapon system. And I realized, like, I just kind of had exhausted my ability on that end, and I needed help. So my friend Rob, God bless Rob, this is like one of the coolest things that is, that I've kind of been able to run into, is he is a professor of game design at Purdue University, and he's like a beloved professor over there. He has all sorts of connections with alumni who just want to keep in touch with him because he's a great teacher. And in one of his alumni discords, he said, hey, here is a few of these early like devlogs for this game that one of my old colleagues is making. If anyone is looking for like capstone work or just to work on something cool, he can't pay anyone, and he's not doing like the classic "I'll pay you with exposure" thing. It's like not that at all. It's just, do you want to partner with someone to make something in your free time? If so, shoot
Yeah.
him an email. And someone named Zoe reached out to me, and we clicked like right away. She's just a super brilliant programmer. She basically, I was like, all right, I'm going to provide you all these materials and let me know what you think. Like, you can dig through these blueprints, look at this complete spaghetti garbage that I made, and tell me if you think that, we can build something out of this. And she got back to me and she's like, oh yeah, this, boom, we can knock it out like this. This here, I have ideas to knock it out like this. This, I have experience from school or whatever. And we just kind of handshake deal like, all right, you know what? This is a 50-50 project. I'm going to do the narrative. I'm going to build the game. I'm going to do the art. And she's the easiest person to work with. She's super enthusiastic about the game. And it basically is like, she takes game design features and makes them level design and artist friendly. So it'll be something like, all right, we're going to want to, like, I'll come up in my head, if this enemy takes damage past this threshold, I want him to explode or something like that.
Okay.
And then we'll hop on a call and she'll be like, okay, I think we can do it this, that, and the other way. And if we tie it to this other system, then it will scale for other enemies. And I'm like, all right, sick. And then I go in, I boot up Unreal. She's checked in her work. And now I have blueprints that basically are like a sandbox of, all right, I built this level out. Now this enemy is going to be here. Now the player is going to get equipped with this new skill over here. And I can design on paper the way, just pure game design. And then I can go in, I build everything in 3D, and I make the art and I write the story out. And now I have an arsenal of blueprints of, hey, Zoe, I want a puzzle mechanic where if I turn off this vent, it shuts one off and opens up another one. And she's like, all right, cool. She has it together in a couple hours. And then I make this maze. It's like, every artist with an idea for a game dreams that they have a programmer that
can understand,
that can see their vision. Like she makes the thing that I see in my head, and it just works. Like it's really wonderful. If Fear Sleep takes off, it's a partnership that I want to just continue in an indie career and just make games with this person because she
so
rocks.
good. That's I think I've never heard a story this it's because it's interesting the way that it all line up. And I'm a firm believer in sometimes that there's, I don't believe in a few things, but I do believe in there's just things that are meant to be, and
I agree.
and it's just great because you just mentioned your first concept, that sparked it, the fear of sleep concept basically. And it just triggered in my mind a question: why did you decide to approach horror through sci-fi setting instead of something more traditionally supernatural or an outbreak or something different? Because we do have IDCs and we're gonna get to that, but it feels more. I guess you kind of touch it with the Dead Space. As you're a fan of Dead Space as well, I have Isaac Clarke's helmet there.
It's amazing.
It's a very, very well franchise, and I think that the remake deserve like respect. People were just slandering it and the whole thing with the Callisto Protocol, like, which is another great game that I enjoyed. I don't know. It's just I think it deserved like it. The remake was good. I enjoyed the hell out of it.
It was good because they didn't do anything other than make it look new.
Good.
They preserved everything. They preserved the way it felt. They preserved the way the character feels. They preserved all the game design. They just gave it a nice facelift with some cool tech. So yeah, I love that game so much. But yeah, so I guess to answer your question, it's kind of a marriage of things because I would say I am more of a sci-fi nerd than I am a horror nerd.
Yeah.
But the experience that there's so many games that stick with you for whatever reason, but I find that the games that really stick with you are the games that shock you, or especially the moments that stick with you. It's like there's a million things that can happen that are really well designed and really cool, but if they trigger that primal fear,
Oh yeah.
it's more memorable. Like, and also, I think the reason I went horror and not just sci-fi is a couple reasons. One, the scope, you're able to do more with less with a fixed camera.
Awesome.
Because you can intentionally, especially as an artist, like you can intentionally focus on the broad details with retro graphics. You can focus on the composition and where the player is guided more as though it's a broad composition rather than getting in like drilling into these little details and letting the player explore on their own. In terms of the vantage point, like over the shoulder or first person, people are going to look in every little nook and cranny. But with the fixed camera, which is traditionally a horror mechanic, you're able to really present the game exactly how you want it to be presented. And the core ethos is essentially just, if I make a game that I want to play and I execute on it really well, then people that I recommend games to that like the stuff that I like will also like it. And
Sure.
if one person plays it, if it literally, and this is something that I talked to Zoe about the whole time, I'm like, if this game, worst case scenario, we make something that we think is cool and that's it. If we end up, like, best case scenario is that this game takes off and we can have a career off of this. And that would be amazing. But the minimum viable thing to make me 10,000% content, which is just to have one person play it and go, like, I connect with that.
Yeah.
I see what you were going with. I like that.
And I think
that to me is a job well done.
I think you chose the right niche and the right perspective for the game, because it feels like it doesn't only pays homage to the classics. It feels like there's something there that you want to pursue, and
Mhm.
and you know, I'm a lore freak, and I identify and analyze. And actually, we have another podcast called La Autopsia in Spanish, which translates to the autopsy, where we
Mhm.
go deep into lore, with making, like, deep dives into lore and stuff on horror games, especially survival horror and psychological horror games. But the MetroBunker, and I like seeing things a little bit further, right? So, like, for example,
Mhm.
Silent Hill, the town was a character for me.
Mhm. Mhm.
It behaved like a character. The MetroBunker feels like a character itself. It's a decaying underworld, and it's full of secrets too. So, what inspired that creation?
So the Metro Bunker is it's something it's actually like it's a product of a creative writing project that I've been working on for a really long time.
Okay.
And it was this sort of a thing where it's like I've already built a world and installed characters into a world, and it was, what if I'm not telling this story, but it's in this world. So I it allowed me to present it without doing any exposition. I feel like if you're if you're creating the story first, or if you haven't built the world first, then you end up throwing a lot of stuff in that justifies for yourself what is happening in the narrative,
Yeah.
rather than if you already have the narrative established, then I'm not concerned with explaining to you why you're in a metro bunker.
Yeah.
You're just in a metro bunker because there's reasons that you're in a metro bunker, and there's no reason for somebody to walk up to the character and say, "Hey, this is, the third time the world has been flooded with nuclear weapons and we've lost ourselves to history. So, we're basically in like a post it's like a post-apocalyptic post-industrial society with heavy ground troops and like artillery warfare happening above this shelter that it's the size of a metropolitan city because the earth above ground is nearly uninhabitable because of permanent war." It's like, you know, sometimes it's cool when you have like breadcrumbs or whatever, like you can couch it like, oh, there's a book about the history of the world that I'm in, conveniently sitting next to my bed. But I'm much more interested in people playing and asking questions and coming up in their own head
Yeah.
what this is.
So, yes.
Because I know what it is, and I'm suggesting at what it is, But if you think it's something else and it resonates with you for a different reason, it's not my job to tell you what to think or what to feel about this world. It's my job to just put you in it.
That's great.
So the storytelling, to me, the method of storytelling is that none of the story is told that isn't embedded in something necessary or in something that fleshes out the world. So you get impressions of what's going on, again, without me saying this room is dedicated to people who are working on the back end infrastructure that keeps this facility going. No, you just read an email of someone saying like, hey, people are starting to get really sick, flu season sucks. If the robot walks through here to charge himself, like, leave him alone, he's fucking weird.
Yep. Everybody hates the robot.
and then the footnote is this guy, server tech, this floor, whatever. So I'm not telling you this is the floor where this stuff is happening. I'm just showing you the people communicating, and then you can pick up everything else on your own. I really like the principle of just tinkering with stuff, and I'm trying to do that narratively and gameplay wise. You're a robot. You go around, you get your hands in things, you do trial and error, you fuss with the environment and see if a door opens. That's kind of the way I want the game to feel. And similarly, the narrative is like, if you don't care about who you are as the character, if you don't care about the context of you in that world, then you're just going to play a game where you skim through texts, find out, oh, the pistol's also going to open up these doors from a long range, so I can do that. And you're going to have a really fun time tinkering with an analog and physical environment. But if you take that level of experimentation and deductive reasoning into what is happening in the narrative, then I promise at the end of the game, you'll know exactly who your character is, what is going on, and why it happened. But there's a very good chance that you'll beat this game and you'll kind of just scratch your head and be like, oh, that was cool. I don't really know what that was all about.
Yep. It has that impression when I started, because I'm one of those guys that I enjoy a lot of like in your face, like cinematic shit when when a game starts. And then I was like, why am I a robot? And I was like running around, and then I'm like, I grabbed the wrench. And I was like, oh, okay, this is a weapon. And I was like, and then I immediately felt that this game has no hand holding. There's
none.
In the design philosophy, there was like, and it was brilliant because I loved it. Why was it important to trust players to figure out things on themselves rather than guiding them through the tutorials and the famous blue or yellow markers?
Because I play video games, and I've played video games since it's like the only thing that I can remember, or it's the only thing other than like spoken language that I don't remember the first time I engaged with it. It's just been, I'm the youngest of five, and I was born in the early 90s. So video games are just like baked into our household culture. It's a part of who I am. Like, I know that sounds kind of cheesy, but it really is.
No, I totally understand it, man. Like, we have like, this is a gaming house. So yeah, I totally get it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's like, if you go back and play the games that were made as a packaged product and not a service to get you to keep paying money into it, studios used to have to package a product and compete with other products to sell copies.
Now it's
different. You can't trick someone into having a fun experience and grabbing their parents' credit card and dumping, Fortnite bucks into Metal Gear Solid 3. You just can't.
Yeah.
That infrastructure didn't exist, so you just had to make something that was compelling and fun. So I noticed that even if I go back and play games that are not, for the time, not in any way hardcore or, expecting you to take out a pen and paper to figure it out, the game just trusts you to figure it out. Yep. You feel like, oh, I'm playing something that somebody made that respected my time and didn't do it just to put me on like a little roller coaster and just like mosey through this world. I'm a big fan of the early Prince of Persia games.
Oh yeah,
that's a great example of it's like you don't have objective marker. If that game is made now, there's the bottom right hand corner of the screen will tell you every button to press. The top left corner of the screen tells you exactly where to go. If you press a button, it'll create an arrow that points towards your direction, and your brain just completely turns off.
Yeah, you're just like in
But
autopilot. Yep.
I would much rather have a few simple mechanics that the game trusts you to, or a few simple controls that the game trusts you to memorize to interface with these varied mechanics, than have a game that is like super intricate and complex, but like basically has to tell you what to do every 5 seconds.
You know,
It's really what it comes down to is when I play video games, if I'm playing a modern game that, and this is a jump, but Battlefield 2, or sorry, Battlefront 2, one of my favorite games ever, Star Wars Battlefront.
yeah, both.
The UI in that game is not leveraging your lizard brain to get addicted to it. It's just fun. So you want to run around and throw grenades and get in vehicles and shoot guys and blow them up. If you play the newer ones, every time you do anything, the game is like, good job, keep playing, do that. +3, +4, +5, nice, good job.
Yeah, here are the skins.
Exactly. When the games bombard me with UI that is so clearly just breadcrumbs to keep playing the game, I shut down and I turn it off. And I know not everyone feels that way, and I know that a lot of times it's the opposite, and it's just a matter of preference. So if you like, I know for a fact probably the majority of people who play my game will just get a bad taste in their mouth. And it's not that I don't want those people to enjoy the game. It's just that if you try to make something that everybody loves, nobody's going to love it. And that's the design ethos of AAA right now. It's just, how can we maximize the amount of eyeballs on this product? How can we maximize the amount of money that people spend on it after it releases? When, if you look at the games that are actually doing really well right now, it's games like Requiem, it's games like Space Marine that are just, we have a vision for what we want to do, and we're going to execute on it really well. We think it's cool. And the people that resonates with will genuinely engage with it and genuinely enjoy it, instead of everyone tacitly engaging with it to make a bunch of money.
And I think the best, like, it comes to mind, the Souls games.
Yes. Yeah.
Because it's that, and I love them. I'm a huge fan. And it's one of those things. Like, I remember nobody played Souls games because Souls games were difficult. And when it stayed like that, it was cool. Now everybody wants to jump into, like, do a Souls-like game. And it's I feel like sometimes it's losing the direction at some point. It's like with survival horror. Now you enter Steam, and because of the Steam tax, and this is a problem of talk with a lot of other devs too, you have people putting survival horror into, like, the marquee into games that are not survival horror. Like, it's not. And for example, I can throw in games that are more into the survival game type, like Ark, like Rust, and all that. And there are people making those type of games, but with that crafting, but with horror elements, and they're calling it survival horror because it's a horror game and it has survival, so it must be survival horror, and it doesn't work that way. So, and there's some of them that are doing excellent mixes with survival horror and survival games, which is I can mention the recent one, I Hate This Place, which is, it's beautiful, and it's just there's so much stuff to cover on that side, but it's good to hear you talking about how you know, your philosophy on that, on your game, because I think that one of the other things that you very, very quickly mentioned, but I want to highlight, is that this game emphasizes multi-use of weapons, right? And those weapons can be tools. So where equipment isn't just about dealing damage, but also to traverse and do puzzles and the environmental interaction. I think that adds an extra layer of something that maybe survival horror OG fans are gonna enjoy. Because one of the things that I used to complain about when I was playing, because people think, Joe, you don't complain about survival horror games ever. Oh, you didn't met me when I was a kid. And I was always complaining, like, how stupid can it be that I just came here and there's a door and I have a gun, and the door's locked. But you shoot the damn lock. It's like, you can't. or you know, the logic behind the resource management, right? So I'm
Mhm.
storing all these files that at the end of the game, I imagine Chris or Leon or Jill just like pulling a full crate cabinet behind them, but they can't put in extra bullets and stuff like that. But then I understand that it was the game design philosophy. And
Mhm.
and once I, you start like maturing with time and learning what made you get hooked in that game, now I want that stuff to happen. Now I understand
Mhm.
that. So it's different. And survival horror is often about tension and limitation. And I wanted to ask you, how do you balance the player freedom while still maintaining that constant sense of danger? Because one of the things that, talking about that freedom is I love the physics manipulation mechanics.
Mhm.
I think it's gonna play a major role in people actually getting hooked in the game because it helps you use your environment to solve stuff, right? How deep does that system go in terms of experimentation and emergent gameplay into the core of the game?
Oh yeah, it's in development right now, but basically we want it to be similar to the weapons where you can use it in combat, you can use it in traversal, and you can use it in puzzles.
Yeah.
Um, and whether that be placing, you know, grabbing a dead soldier with a security clearance to enter a location that androids are not permitted to go, or moving a box into a dark corner that you wouldn't know it's there unless you've got your flashlight on, and then you jump on top of that box and you see a secret room or you see a piece of lore that you could have completely missed. That right now is like those are the foundational elements, but I don't I kind of don't want to say anything because we
Yeah, don't
have
spoil it.
we have the demo is designed to show you the bare minimum of what that system is. And as you go, the system becomes cooler, more interesting, and more fun. And um, I kind of want the player to experience that rather than telling them
Yeah.
all about it. If
I
that
think,
makes sense.
yeah, it makes total sense. And I think Roy, which is the, R01 android, is a fascinating protagonist because it's like, my first question, and I'm not joking, this is the first question that I wrote down. So, what made you tell this story from the perspective of a machine instead of a human survivor?
It's it's so hard to answer these questions
Without spoiling it, yeah, without
spoiling.
spoiling.
Yeah. So what I will say is that who Roy is, what Roy is central to why you're playing the game.
Okay, that's good enough for me because that's said.
There's a very Roy is a robot for a very specific reason. And if I tell you anything more, you might start deducing things that you're not supposed to know yet.
Environmental storytelling seems central experience. I mean, we talk about your pushing players to explore themselves, and even if players want to not find out what's happening, they just can finish the game and be like, "Hey, what the hell?" So, how much of the world's lore it's gonna be hitting around you? Like, you basically told us already that at the end, if you pay attention, you're gonna know. So what are your plans to, like, it's gonna be like a mixture of the conversations that you talked and the maybe the
Mhm.
notes scattered around and the environmental storytelling. What's your idea behind it?
So that's going to flesh out the world. What you just mentioned:
Okay.
notes, communications, pamphlets, flyers, field journals, field handbooks, instruction manuals, posters, propaganda. All of that stuff is going to give you the impression of the world that you're in,
Yeah.
and the story being told within that world is driven by interstitials, which are in other games they would be cutscenes,
Yes.
but in our game they are sequences. Again, I'm dancing around these subjects because it's a very spoiler heavy territory,
Yeah.
but sequences in which you are dumped into a small space with nothing to do but interact with that space.
Okay. Basically,
and
that sets up everything.
And at any point, you can leave that space and go back to and pick up where you left off with Roy. But if you really dig into those spaces and those interstitial moments, then you'll get as you play, you'll get a clearer picture of the story being told within the world that you're learning about.
So we've talked about the gameplay mechanics, your game philosophy. We talk a little bit about the environment, maybe the design, the visual design, and I'm interested as well in the creatures in the game. So the creatures are described as grotesque and physically reactive. So what was the design philosophy behind those enemy and their design?
Have you ever seen those frogs that hatch the tadpoles out of their backs?
Oh yeah.
That's kind of like that.
That's basically it. Yep.
Well, no,
makes sense.
In terms of visual design, it's really grim and gross. Think tumors and disease.
Yeah.
And in terms of the replication, it's like spawning in that sense that there's the growths from which these creatures propagate are also built of tissue that the creatures are made of themselves, and it's just this kind of gross orgiastic splitting of cells, if that makes sense. It starts with a soldier or a member of the personnel in the MetroBunker feeling sick, and they turn into something different, whether it's, in other games you call it a necromorph or a zombie or whatever. But my version of the game is essentially someone who catches a rapid illness that starts dividing their cells and mutating their cells to the point where this disease that they have is their husk.
It's so funny because I when you send me the demo, I downloaded it and I remember I asked you something about, oh yeah, it said, I'm reading this, if poor people are getting sick. It was like, yeah, don't worry, it's just a flu. It's just a regular cold. And I'm like, what? I'm playing this.
The idea is that there's a life cycle, and the life cycle repeats. So you have a soldier that's sick, and then you have what's called the cancerous, which are the diseased zombies, basically. And then the cancerous, when they completely metastasize and break down into just goo, they create these metastasis pods, which are hives to which these next stage of creatures come out that are called the tumorous. And then the tumorous grow and mutate back into the cancerous, which is like the middle of the life cycle. And then beyond that, they evolve into something else.
So,
but it's a repeating life cycle.
I think this is
kind of like,
it explains a lot.
It's like a natural phenomenon. It's a natural phenomenon. It's a genetic phenomenon, I will say.
So good. The game's combat has a lot of like gore, and I felt like it was like more visceral and physical rather than stylized. And I appreciate that, because it is, for me, it is important for the tone of the game. Because on the moment that when you encounter the first creature, and for me, that encounter is always important, right? Because it's like when in Resident Evil 1, when the zombie was eating on the floor and he turns the back, like that's an iconic scene, right? Yeah. So I kind of felt like that when I grabbed the wrench. and instantaneously, it's like I heard stuff, but thanks to the glory of the fixed cameras, I couldn't see. So I was like, what is this? What is this? So I run, and then I found myself, well, I'm holding a wrench, so I might just as well hit the attack button. And then, okay, I can hit him with this. And to my surprise, I didn't get killed the first time. And nice. I'm looking at it on the floor, and I'm like, that was a very iconic moment right there. So from that moment on, I wanted to continue to see what was going on. And I think there's a lot of games out there that are good, but they don't achieve that from the very beginning. And that, I want to congratulate you for that, because that's like super, I think it's very important. So my next thing before we go into talk a little bit about survival horror roots, it's another part that for me was super important. On Resident Evil, it was important. but I learned to cherish it through Silent Hill, and it's the soundtrack and the audio design. Silent Hill master the silence. Resident Evil mastered the dread, depending on the music. Like when you enter a room, that you feel safe because this is a safe room. This is the safe room music. And when I always talk about safe room music, I need to mention Resident Evil. I need to mention other games, but recently we have Heartworm. Heartworm was that safe room music. I remember playing 3 games after that, and every time I enter a safe room, I was still hearing the music from Heartworm in here. So, and Vincent always tells me like, "Oh, thanks," but it's like it's so because it's a genius thing, and he talked about the process that he wanted. That it's like I want to build something that it's memorable and it's good. So, sound design is one of the most powerful tools, right? That's what we've been talking. And how did you approach into an audio landscape for the MetroBunker? Because there's a lot of things that you can pull out when making a horror game, right? And a lot of stands. But I felt like the music in the MetroBunker was kind of like different at some point, and I loved it. So what was your take on it?
I am a musician. I love to record and play music. I've been doing it since I was a kid, and a lot of what I've got into in the last few years, which is just kind of one of these little synergies of like, if I'm writing a story that has a backdrop, I'm already practicing, song or like instrumentals and recording. These are just things that you can add to the deck of cards that you make your game with. But I really like the idea of taking a guitar, which is just copper strings, a magnet with a coil plugged into an outlet, picking up a signal, and running that through an amplifier, running that through pedals, and just using the frets and strings on a guitar to do stuff that doesn't sound like a guitar at all. And so I love building tension, horror, just noise with the electric guitar. I think it's really fun, and that's a big approach for Fear of Sleep, where in the more aggressive spots, maybe there's a heavy fuzz pedal and some weird flange, and the reverb is cranked to 11, and it doesn't even sound like a guitar, but it sounds like a monster's like screaming in your face while it's trying to kill you.
It's funny because I scream in a band called Sentence to Fight. It's a hardcore band. I've been in the indie scene for a while, and I love OG thrash metal music and fast music, and I also love punching people and kicking people and jumping into the pit, and I love all that stuff. And I recently, one of the first interviews that I did, I had the honor to meet the guys from Cross Productions, and they're working in heavy metal Deccan, and Toby's. It's in that same line where he just picked up a guitar one day and he was like playing with the sounds, and he's like, "Oh my fucking god," and then he started like, I think that when you get to that point and you're incorporating stuff that makes you happy and you enjoy, like for example, you're a musician, and you're putting that also into your project, it gives it an extra layer of authenticity to the project, and that's what I've been doing with La Bóveda as well. Like most of people get it, but most of the people, it's weird. I would say that it's more than 50%, but I love metal music, right? And the music, the theme, and the music that I've written for either my streams or the podcast or whatnot, it's a mix in between that heavy metal, heavy music stuff with survival horror and that trashy look from the late 80s, 90s, like trash metal like stuff. Like I stopped wearing it because I was dying in here, like on because I have the heater, because I live in a place where it gets super cold, but I have a vest, like it's like a metal like denim vest, but the patches that he has on is old survival horror games, and I try to blend everything I love into one thing. I think it's part of the tism as well, but it works. And then my kid works with me on it, and we all jumped on it, and it's for me, it's rewarding. Like one of the things that I look forward of playing a game is what kind of experience I'm gonna take from this game when I'm on it, right? And I think Resident Evil gave me so much that I even ended up becoming a biologist because of it. Because I really wanted to know, is this possible? And now I know it is. So people watching think it's not. It may not happen like in the game, but everything that it's a principle or an idea on Resident Evil, it's doable. And it's just one of those things, yeah. So that takes me to the survival horror roots. What was your first survival horror game that truly impacted you as a player and that you think that eventually turned you into a developer?
Dude, man. So I remember, if we're talking survival horror roots,
yeah,
one of my very first memories is being in my bedroom with my brothers, and my brothers are running away from the nurses in Silent Hill.
so
And I'm maybe 3 or 4, and it's just the scariest shit I've ever seen in my life.
It's just all erratic movements, and they're like, yeah, you can.
Yeah.
At that moment, and I think you can agree with me on this one. I don't know how you feel about it, but the erratic movements nowadays, we know, when we see that kind of movement in a game, like, oh shit, I need to keep distance and I need to learn the AI of this enemy first. But at that moment, it added so much unpredictability to the movements that you were like dying constantly because you didn't know. And I think that AIs like the Silent Hill nurses and even Pyramid Head, the stalkers like Nemesis, and even the zombies in Resident Evil, but especially the leakers. The AI back then was so ahead of their time. Because it was so good. I think, how do you feel more influenced by classic survival horror games, or do you also appreciate the newer survival horror adjacent titles that are experimenting within the genre?
Yeah, see, that's kind of where it all comes from, right? It's like, I love the way there are certain modern games that feel so good and sound so good and look so good, but they have all of the trappings. They have the permanent UI. They have the hand holding. They have the yellow and white splashes on everything. And for me, it's like, I just want a game that feels like that, but just respects me to figure it out on my own. And that's kind of the core thesis to Fear of Sleep is feel modern, feel tactile and analog and crunchy, but don't tell me what to do. Let me decide where to go and fail on my own or succeed on my own. Let me tinker.
Try, fail, repeat.
I like Metal Gear Solid 2. This is excuse me. And when I say I know this game isn't for everyone, this is kind of a big part of it. Is like, I remember being in grade school playing Metal Gear Solid 2 on the boat.
Yeah.
In that first scene, and you're just pressing buttons on the controller because you have no idea what's going on.
Yep.
You press this button and Snake goes against the wall. You press this button and he pulls out the gun. You press this button and he shoots. You press this button and he goes to shoot, but he doesn't shoot. And it's like, after that sequence, you get the tutorial.
Yeah.
And for me, for some reason, I always just loved that, because the unknown, you could have a control scheme with 5 things. But if you have to completely figure it out, you might think it's 3 things or 4 things. And then when you learn that 5th thing on your own, you're like, holy shit, what else do I not know about this? Like, this is crazy. It just makes you feel so much more connected to the protagonist.
Yeah.
And I relented in Fear of Sleep after just getting a lot of feedback of people who it was just a little too much friction to not have any guide on what to press to do this, that, or the other. So I added the control protocol on the wall outside the room that you can open up and reference in your inventory, and even has little icons like these buttons do that. But that's a cheat sheet. That's not telling you what to do. That's just a cheat sheet of like, oh, okay, so it says here that I can stomp. What does that do?
Man, you know that I don't want to spoil the demo for anybody, because I really want people to. I'm a huge believer of making your own experience. But I can tell you that there was a lot of things in there that when I did them, I wish that I was alive because I usually do this stuff with the subs on Discord, right? And I wasn't recording. I have a lot of recordings of before I finished the demo. But when I finished the demo and I figured out what I needed to do, I started screaming in here. I was like screaming, like I was like, "Oh man!" And then I'm working with one of the guys that it's one of the subs, one of the oldest subs. He was recording the session. He's gonna send me a video, so I'm trying to clip everything in together to upload it, because that thing, when it happened, that right there was the money shot. That like what I needed to do, guys, just listen to me. I'm not gonna spoil it, but what you need to do to end the demo, that for me, that was like, okay, this took all the mechanics that I didn't know existed. I just figured them out myself. And now my brain is braining, and I'm like, okay, what if I do this? And then you try it, and it is. And at first it didn't work. And I'm like, well, maybe, well, that's not it. And then I was like, well, maybe it's not that one. It has to be a specific one. And I started like, scratching, and I'm like, okay. So, and I got it, and it was good. So I think I'm going to ask you, looking forward, what has been the biggest challenge while developing Fear of Sleep?
Oh man, I would say the biggest challenge was getting the prototype off the ground, because like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, dude. I was up at 5 a.m. working on it till 10 p.m. for like 3 months.
Yeah.
It just had to be that way, unfortunately, but that was the hardest. That was the grind. Everything since then has just been fun, really. Like, Zoe's ability to just scale stuff that I want to implement is so smooth. It works so well that I really can focus on taking the tools and building the game and just going for it. And
it sounds like you guys do a great team. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love the process of taking out a pad and paper and drawing top down, making a little key for myself, and then going, here's where the fire is. Here's where the next fire will start when you go to this area. Here's where this is. And then imagining in my head, these are the path. This is the path that if you take this path, it will completely knock out everything you need to do and be correct. Here's the path that if you start here and then do this other branch, will stop you there and then point you to something else, blah, blah, blah. Like, that part of the process is really challenging, because it requires a lot of focus in a way that things like song or like guitar playing or drawing or sculpting or 3D modeling, they don't require that level of, like, you don't have to cast such a wide net into thinking about other stuff at once.
Yeah.
Sure. And that is really challenging to be like, to be thinking about multiple systems interacting with each other in your head, and then also thinking about the permutations that will happen, because they're not getting an A, B, C, D, E, F, G instruction list. But I will say, just like anything good in life, the stuff that is the trickiest and the hardest to get through is always the most rewarding.
Awful.
And I find that to be true about art, game development, and music. It's like the joy comes through the breakthroughs, and not the stuff where you're just coasting.
Well said, bro.
Chris, I just wanted to touch back on what you were saying about that, like, aha moment that you had, because that's a core pillar of what I'm trying to do with Fear of Sleep, is that I want every single thing that the player does to feel like something they figured out on their own.
Oh yeah.
If that makes sense.
It does. So you achieved it. I can't wait what you're gonna pull out with the full game. If this is how I felt with the demo, and this is one of the things that, another thing that I usually, when I talk with my friends, tell them, is like, I think that some people in the industry still do not understand what a demo is. Mm-hmm. And sometimes the idea on the demo is good, but there are just a few demos out there that you play and you get so eager to play the game. Like right now I have Heavy Metal Netcan on my log, Ground Zero, it's on my log. Before that, all the footage from Heartworm was like ticking in there, Crowd Country, Signalis, all those games nailed it. And you did an awesome job putting the screenshots together and everything that I saw on Reddit that made me go to you. When I saw the pictures and all the things that takes, I instantly knew like this guy's doing a survival horror game. Either he did his homework or he knows what he's doing because he's a fan. And I've developed this thing talking with a lot of devs and trying out. I'm helping with a bunch of like beta testing and playing and repeat and QA. And I developed this eye to just see a 10-second video and knowing or making up in my mind what I can expect, at least on the perspective, the controllers and everything. Now I'm eager to see what the game brings new to the table, how the story is going to be developed. And I think Fear of Sleep nails each and every one of those, and I'm super excited. I usually tell the guys, I recommend you guys to download the demo. I'm going to put the link down below, which takes me to the last two things I want to touch with Konrad before we go. First thing is, can you define survival horror in one sentence?
Can you give me a few seconds?
Yeah, sure. One of those tricky Bóveda questions.
That's such a gotcha question.
Yeah, I know.
I would say survival horror is tension driven through environmental exploration and resource scarcity.
Oh, that's perfect. That's perfect. I have this thing that I've been throwing at everybody that I feel like survival horror is there when I'm not in control.
Boom. That's a lot sexier than my answer.
Yeah. As soon as you, and you know how I came up with that? Somebody came up to one of my streams and I was speed running with infinite ammo. And he started like throwing a lot of shit at me in the comments. And I'm like, bro, do you know what you need to do to get infinite ammo? And he goes like, oh, I didn't thought about that. Let me enjoy my I came back with the bag of milk moment,
Yeah.
So but I can understand, because when you have the infinite ammo, now you're in control and it doesn't feel like a survival horror game anymore. So I came up with that. It's like you're in control, and it was actually through one of those deep dives we do in La Autopsia with Capita. We were talking and I'm like, control, and I'm like, that's it. When you lose control, you're surviving, you're trying to do your best, handling ammo scarcity. When you have control, when you come back and you step up in front of Mr. X and tell him like, bro, here's an RPG, infinite RPG, which doesn't make any sense because I'm still thinking where Leon puts all the rockets, but it's just one of those things, So, and the second thing, Konrad, it's like anything you want to say to the audience, the microphone is yours.
Oh, I just want to say thank you to you for giving me the opportunity to talk about it. It's not often where I really have to kind of organize and explain the thoughts for the game. So similarly to when like you learn the most when you're teaching.
Yeah.
Somebody, like if you're playing an instrument, you learn more by teaching. Having these conversations is cool because it narrows the focus in my mind of what I'm creating. And it
awesome.
helps me kind of speak it into reality. And I just, again, if I were to address the audience directly, I would say don't force yourself to enjoy the game. If you don't enjoy it, that's okay. I will not take any offense. I'm just making something that I think I think other people who like the stuff I like will like it. And if you don't like the stuff I like, then there's different strokes for different folks, and I'm not mad. But
that's great, bro.
I think if this is your cup of tea, you're really going to click with it and you're going to love it.
I just completely identify with you right there. And I've been doing this recently a lot of, in a bunch of podcasts. I think I'm starting to meet the right people. It's a lot of people coming to my streams. It was like, you could have more people watching if you would play Fortnite. You could have more people watching if you were playing this and that. And I'm like, yeah, well, that would defeat the whole purpose of what I'm trying to do. Survival horror is my life. This is my type of game. This is all I do. I collect figures. I collect games. I collect like memorabilia. I when I don't have anything new to play, which is odd because I'm continuously looking forward for new experiences.
Yeah, it's awesome.
this is what I do. So I can totally identify with you. I tell people, if you don't actually have a disclaimer that it's like kind of like it was inspired by the South Park thing at the beginning, when it's like this is shitty program, whatever, blah blah blah. So I have something like that, and mine basically says there's thousands of content creators out there. If you don't like what we're doing, just go and watch another one. You know, like it's just like that. And it's kind of like assholey, dorky type of like voice, because it's like a woman. It's like one of those text to speech kind of voices. And then funny. At the end, it has it like it cuts. So I was trying to make it like funny, but at the same time, it represents what I stand for. This is what we do. This is our niche, and I'm not trying to convince nobody to come in, but if you're curious enough that you will learn what survival horror is and you can appreciate it the same way that we do, you're more than welcome. So, guys, that was Konrad Honey right there talking about the world of Fear of Sleep. It's an upcoming retro-inspired sci-fi horror game where survival depends on observation, experimentations, and the courage to descend deeper into the unknown. If you want to follow the development of the game and try the demo, you can check out the Steam page on the link below, and the X, it's there. That's the handle, Fear of Sleep Game. Go and follow them so you step up to date with the project. And as always, this has been La Bóveda, where we open the vault and explore the darkest corners of survival horror in gaming. Konrad, thanks for being here. And until the next time, guys.
Salud. Thank you.